see the world differently. Where some see scarcity, you see abundance. When others want to give up, you keep going. You're building an amazing life of significance. That means you can't rely on ordinary advice from ordinary advisors to get to your goals. You want advice that's going to help maximize your net worth so you can take even better care of the people you love, the causes you care about, and make your dent in the universe. But the fact is, this advice remains hidden because relatively few professionals are well versed in them, and the extremely affluent don't care to let you know about them. Join us as we pull back the curtain to reveal the often hidden advice and strategies used by today's most successful individuals and families. Welcome to Dental Wealth Nation. Here's your host, Tim McNeely.
Hey, welcome everyone to another fantastic edition of the Dental Wealth Nation show. And I'm so excited to have you here today. And I don't know about you, but life can feel like a rat race sometimes. We're running around doing all these things. And so often you forget to take care of yourself. And that's why I'm so glad you're here today, is because by the time we finish today, you're going to know why it makes sense to really slow down in the middle of this rat race. You're going to have some tools to help you stay grounded and connect with yourself. But most importantly of all, you're going to feel hopeful and inspired in the work that you're doing right now and for the world. And I'm so excited about our guest today. She's a friend, someone I get to collaborate with, and she is a modern day nomad who's really found her purpose in grief. And what I love about Dr. Parul Makkar is she's not just a dentist, she's also an inspiration. And I love her inspiring story, and I love her desire to help heal the healers. Parul, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Tim.
Oh, I can't think of a more important topic to be talking about today, right? Just the idea of slowing down in the middle of the rat race. But I want to start a little bit about your journey and everything that you've gone through. Would you share just a little bit about your journey as a grief coach and a modern day nomad?
Yeah, so I call myself that because, oh my goodness, I have lived in like 5 different countries and different lifestyles, different cultures, and it's made me a little bit more understanding of people. But my story, I was just like any other dentist I had to start a practice I did in 2018 in Long Island, New York. And in 2019, my younger and only sibling was diagnosed with oral cancer. And he was a dentist like myself. He followed my footsteps, my baby and only brother. And, and I remember having a conversation with my dad. He's like, because his mom passed away of cancer. So his view of cancer was like, it's a death sentence. And he said, Manu would survive. And I said, yeah, Manu's healthy. He's only 33. He's going to be good. They're going to remove this and, everything's going to be good. And 2020 hit. Life changed for everyone with COVID. And especially for me, I think life comes with challenges. We all know that, ups and downs. But I had a whole stream of downs. Startup, I had a young family. My only brother's cancer had returned and borders were shut down, which something I had taken so for granted. We resided in Canada, my parents and my brother. And I was here in New York, and New York at that time was epicenter of all of the COVID mess. And I wasn't allowed to go see him freely. And that changed our life projection. And then he passed away in 21. And things that I had taken so for granted, and a lot of us do, with life going in a certain way or whatever, we plan for it. And life quite doesn't have that in store for you. It has a whole different set of rules. And it changed my perception of everything, and made me question my own purpose and the reason for what I am and doing what I do.
Wow.
And yeah, so a lot of life changes.
So right, going through that questioning process, right, it has to be just so surreal because, like you said, you're thinking, hey, my brother's young, he's going to be okay, and then he's not there. And it sounds like that really impacted you and was a major turning point, as well it should be, right? The loss of people we love. These things are painful and hard to navigate.
Absolutely. And that same conversation, my dad asked me in February. Manu passed away. My brother passed away in March. So a few months before his death, my dad asked me, "Is he going to die?" And I said, "Yes." And you have to be prepared for it. And it is very hard, because I think when you are going through any life challenges, at least for myself, I did the whole process of his death and planning the funeral and the eulogy and the cremation, the whole 9 yards. Your body's on like this autopilot. You're just doing because things need to be done at a certain time. And the mind realizes what your body's gone through, and it hits you after. And that's when I went through my own anxiety and questioning my beliefs and panic. There is all that setting of the trauma that your body has gone through, and you haven't realized because you haven't quite processed it. And so it definitely was a trying period, and a very dark time sometimes.
Yeah, well, right. I think that's so interesting. You mentioned kind of the body being on autopilot, and I know I've experienced. I know many of our listeners, right? Some kind of trauma happens, or some kind of stressful event, and you literally are just going through the motions, just one thing after another, and not having time to process or deal with these. And then, like you said, you make it through, and then the crash happens. And so, you at this time, you were also a practicing dentist, so you had patients to take care of.
Yeah.
How did you work on managing this?
It was very hard. In fact, through all of this, because of the time zone difference, a lot of times I was at work when I was getting the news. When Manu would be at the hospital, I got admitted, especially towards the end. He was admitted on a Friday. Saturday, I was at work, and he was moved to hospice. And I couldn't finish the conversation because I had a full load of patients to go see. And you have to physically tell yourself, okay, I'm going to compartmentalize this. I'm going to put this in the back burner. And I'm going to just concentrate and try to be present, because you owe your patients that. And I think, as a working mom, have constant barrage. I'm the person to call when the kids something goes wrong with the kids, the nurses call. And I think a lot of your listeners, there's always stuff happening. You just have to take a 5-minute breather. And that's what I would do, is okay, I'm going to take a deep breath. I cannot do. And that's another thing, that there's some things that are out of our control, and realizing, letting go of certain control of that situation. Well, it's not going to change the outcome. I cannot control what's happening with my brother. And I'm not going to be able to save him. I have to make peace with that, and I'll work with it. But at that moment, I just have to put that aside and take a deep breath and refocus and be there for my patient and show up. And it's that, it's reminding your body and talking through it and telling yourself, I'm going to come back to this when I can give it my full attention. Otherwise, you're lost. You don't know what to do. And you're just in a panic zone. Oh my God, what do I do? Do I get on a flight? Do I go there? Or do I go shut off my day, and my patients, they're going to be, where am I going to schedule them? There's so much going on. So you have to really take the time to prioritize.
Wow. And as you're sharing this, Parul, right, it really just kind of hits me, just this this thought that so many people, right, we go through these traumas, these absolutely horrific, tragic things. And a lot of times they linger, and they don't affect us, in positive ways, right? We end up turning to addictions, or, drinking, or drugs, or coping mechanisms. But one of the things that you've done so powerfully is you've turned this adversity, right? You've turned this grief into really a powerful theme in your life, and you're creating purpose out of the pain. And so talk to me a little bit about where that's coming from, right? How have you been able to make that shift? Because I know so many people struggle with that. And a lot of times the pain can destroy us instead of turning it into purpose.
Yes. I served as an ADA's wellness ambassador last year. And one of those things is how practice owners or dentists suffer through silently. And unfortunately, sometimes it's suicide when they are in so much anxiety and depression. And like you said, addiction, the downward spiral, you can bottom out very, very fast. And with Manu's loss, I didn't have like this village of grief protecting me. I was, my parents were in Canada and they had each other. They were suffering the same loss of a child. I had a sibling loss, which is very unique. And I had no other sibling to share that grief with. And so I knew I had a lot relying on me, and I had to do it, if not for myself, for my kids. I could not be in this downward depression, anxiety, panic. And I didn't want Manu's death to be, just another statistic. Like, Manu was a dentist and he had oral cancer. I mean, this is a person who knew the disease, and it was on both sides of the table. And yet his diagnosis was missed, because healthy 30-year-old should not have cancer. And there was denial in that. And his oral surgeon, prescribed him prednisone without getting a biopsy. So giving medication without knowing what you're giving medication for, they thought it was an autoimmune disease. So, and so now it's like I couldn't be there to save him. And nothing, and like I mentioned, nothing I can do can alter the past, but we can change our future, and we can do something better. And that's where my mindset changed. I'm like, okay, I couldn't save Manu, but I can share what the signs, symptoms are, bring this awareness to the dentist, like, hey, there's a person attached to that tooth. Get to know your patients. And it made me a more empathetic provider, sharing Manu's story with my staff, with my patients, and being vocal and upfront about it, because grief is this journey that can be very, very lonely. And I found that reaching other people, sharing stories, helped kind of lessen the burden, not necessarily get rid of it, but just, somebody else to carry it with you. And that's where my journey has kind of taken me, to bring this advocacy and awareness in helping people. Yeah.
Well, right. And so often healers, right, the people who are working with others, right, there's a lot of weight, right? We carry the emotional weight of what your patients are going through. And I know that's a common challenge. And I'm just wondering, even with your brother, right, were there any, kind of emotional weights or guilt that you carried by you not finding this? Or did you ever have those moments of doubts of like, man, I should have caught this? And how did you deal with that?
Oh, there's so much guilt. Oh my goodness. When he showed me the lesion, I was like, I showed it to my surgeons. Everybody's like, this is cancer. And Manu was like, no. And he showed me in June of 2019, July, I flew down. I go every summer. And I said, show me your tongue. And this did not look good. And I'm like, why? I'm almost 8 years older than him. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like this little kid brother, right? I'm like, are you kidding me? Why haven't you done this biopsy yet? He's like, and by this time he's had his wisdom teeth taken out. I'm like, you took out your wisdom teeth. Why didn't you do the biopsy? He's like, no, don't worry about it. I'm going to do it after you leave. I don't want to do it while you were here. And August, he was diagnosed with stage 2 with lymph node involvement in the neck, needing a neck dissection. And so, yeah, there was a lot of guilt. Had I been closer, I moved to New York because of marriage. So had I not married somebody from the States, I would have been there sooner. I would have helped my parents. I could have, there are certain things that were out of my control, COVID, border shut down. But there's also survivor guilt of, we have the same gene pool. Why him? Why not me? My grandmother died of, our grandmother died of cancer. Manu died of cancer. What am I transferring to my kids? There's cancer history, immediate cancer history in the family. So there's guilt of that. And guilt of not being able to help as a sister, as a daughter to my parents who are elderly and are non-medical. So they were like, and a loss of a lot of the procedures, terminology, and their age. So there's a lot of guilt attached to this.
Oh, right. Yeah. Right. It's very much a spiral, isn't it? Right. You can start spiraling downwards pretty quickly. And, we've actually, real quick, we've got Angela coming in. She says, great info. She appreciates this. Great to see Angela. Thanks for tuning in. But right, this downward spiral, how were you able to not let that destroy you? How were you able to pull back up and instead of spiraling downwards, really, right? I know a lot of people out there, and I've watched you really spiral upwards. So, what has been that differentiation for you, and what can we take away from that?
One of the things that I did was complete his story, what he asked me to do. So I felt gratified I did something for him. The
Mm,
other thing, and wrote the book, Life Interrupted. And I was like, okay, this is a compilation of my work and his work and kind of unite us. And the other thing was I needed to take care of me, um, because, your spouse, your kids, they'll listen to you, your friends. But after you suffer grief, there's a certain point when things stop, when the flowers stop, when the phone calls stop. And then you're left alone in that mind of the things that you have missed, the things of the future that you're not entitled to anymore. And so this work had to come internally. And so writing the book, because writing I think was therapeutical for me, just putting my words on paper, and really getting rid of the emotions. I started meditating a lot and really grounding. Like when I meditate, my feet are on grass. I'm in a nature environment, away from noise, headphones on, so I'm not listening to any other sounds, to be in my mind, because your mind can become a very dark place. And it was getting rid of that negativity. I started saying no to things that didn't bring me joy, no to people that did not serve me in a nice way. That felt like an obligation, and I'm sure some of us have that. And really putting myself first and acknowledging my feelings, like, okay, if I have to be somewhere and I'm not in my right space, I'm going to walk away and I'm going to go for a walk where I can shut out the world for a little time and just take care of me, and I'll be back. And letting people around me know that I am not gone forever. I'm still here. I just need time for myself. And, every morning I have a routine. And if I don't go by that routine, I have a messed up day. But it's taking that moment, like, not being on my phone all the time in the morning. I'd be like, okay, this is the quiet time. Kids are off to school and I have an hour or two before work. And that's my me time, where it's not taking care of a patient, not taking care of a child, not taking care of my husband. It's me first. And then kind of filling up my cup, because our professions are demanding. We're constantly giving, 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 and can't run on empty. So it's refueling my
yeah.
mind.
Wow. Wow, so powerful. And anyone who wants to check out the book, I put that down below. I'd encourage you, get a copy of Life Interrupted. I've read it, and it really is, it's touching, right? Just these beautiful stories, and a beautiful way to honor him and your brother. It's just absolutely lovely. So I'd encourage you, grab a copy of that down below. And we're here, we're talking about really just this idea of dealing with grief, of healing the healers, of taking care of yourself, of slowing down in the middle of the rat race to make time for you. And one of the things that you talk about is you talk about resilience a lot. And really, I think resilience is the strategy that's so important in not just healthcare, but for all the healers that are out there. So would you share a little bit about resilience and why you think this is such a powerful thing for us to pursue?
Sure. Resilience is standing up and still standing up, and I think all the, I've talked about how I found myself alone because I didn't have the people that I grew up with around me. So nobody understood quite the grief because they didn't know who my brother was. It didn't make any change in their lives. And I was very, very alone. And I think when you don't have an option, when you have to sink or swim, you learn how to swim quickly. And that comes with resilience, of being able to look at a challenge, be like, okay, yes, I can mope and feel sorry about myself and take the time to do that, because you need to, recognize the emotion of feeling sad and not harboring. I think one of the things that I've learned is I have anger, resentment. There's sometimes, why Manu? There are so many other cancer survivors. Why Manu had to die? He was so young. He had so much potential. And to kind of shake it off. Like, I think once you harbor any anger or resentment, I think your body will absorb, it's like energy, right? When you're around certain people, they make you feel good and you feel the good energy. And when people are not so great and you feel that, you don't feel comfortable in their element. So everything is energy, and the feelings and emotions that we have are just energy. And so if we harbor all the negativity inside of us, it'll come out either as high blood pressure or anxiety or higher cholesterol or some form of even maybe cancer, who knows. But our body is constantly listening to how we treat it. Like if you eat good food, you are going to feel better, right? If you exercise, your muscles are going to be good. And if you think positive things and you look at a positive perspective, positive things are going to happen to you. So it's changing that whole mindset. And that's part of the resilience, is being hopeful even in the negativity that things will turn around. We are, it's funny. I was listening to Mind Valley this morning, and and it was like, we're always going to have this up and down in our lives. And if you aren't in your constant state, you're dead, because there's nothing happening, and life has ups and downs. And so realizing the high and being thankful for those highs and being grateful for finding that gratefulness, whatever you can find something to be grateful for. And then when you're at low, know that it's not permanent. You will come out of this.
Yeah. Well, right. And you talk about this. I was actually just pulling up a quote here in, Life Interrupted. And you talk about the connection between peace and resilience. And I love what you say here is you said, by not focusing on the eternal, the external states, but really focusing on the internal state of resilience, of calm and forgiveness. And in doing so, you're able to find peace, right? You found peace, not because you were comfortable, but in that extreme state of discomfort, you found a place. And I love this. So beautiful, so calm, and so serene, that the most magical place was actually your mind. And so you learned how to create peace, not by these external things, but by really focusing inwards. And that to me is just such a powerful lesson.
I'm going to make a small correction. Manu wrote that.
Oh, okay. Yes, correct. Yes.
Manu wrote that knowing that time was not on his side, knowing that death was knocking at his doorstep, knowing that his body was going through so much trauma and pain, discomfort. And he mentions that all of a sudden he was not allowed, when he's in a hospital bed and he's looking out to the world, he's not allowed to participate in that world, not because of anything he did. Somebody decided for him, right? Cancer decided that for him. And that's the whole thing, is when you cannot control things externally and you don't, there are certain situations, COVID, that's pretty universal, and you can't control it. You have to work from within. And along with it, it helps with the people around you too, to kind of exude that calm. Because when you panic, right? When you're in a movie theater and they say, oh, there's a fire, everybody like kind of calm down and don't panic, or there's a stampede and then everybody dies. Exude that calm and we will all get out of there. We'll make it out alive. So, and that's the whole idea.
Yeah, no, absolutely beautifully written. And I meant to say your brother wrote it, but so anyways, thank you for bringing me back on track. But, you mentioned a couple times, right? You really see yourself as the healer of healers. And I'm just curious, how do you help caregivers? Can you share with us how you really help caregivers who are deeply invested in their work avoid burnout and avoid, spiraling downwards? How do you help us do that?
So one of the things is I help people who have gone through grief, because it can be isolating. And like I said, not everybody understands unless you've gone through it. When people tell you, oh, this must be so hard, how long is it going to take for you to get over it? It doesn't go away. You just learn to deal with it. You learn to accept that it's a heavier burden on certain days and it's lighter on certain days. I'd acknowledge it's, you're changed as a person. So how I help is realizing the importance, how to devote time to yourself, and that it's not selfish to seek help. how you can kind of fill your own cup, to understand somebody, to get that understanding from somebody who's walked that walk. It's a tough road, and if you haven't quite traveled in it, I don't think you'll truly understand what it is. Like I don't think I would have been on this journey had I not lost Manu, and I had to find myself. I had to find a purpose. Otherwise, I would be lost. And it's finding that thing that keeps you going. So to help people realize that element, whether it's a hobby, whether it's work, whether it's their family, whatever is that thing that brings them joy, to find that back into their lives, because it doesn't have to hurt all the time.
Wow. It's so powerful. And with that, what role does really community play in healing, right? Do we need a strong support network? Does that matter? Should we grieve through these things alone? Like how big of a role does community play in healing?
Oh, it plays a huge role. And your partner plays a huge role. I think that through this whole process, my husband's seen the ugly side of grief. He's found me curled up, as in a fetal position, next to the trash can, just couldn't get up. When I've had my panic attacks, when I've had when sleep's a stranger and I cried the whole night away. So grief is like something you need an understanding person to be with you. And had my husband not supported me, I think we would have been divorced at this point. So family support does. People who give you the space to find yourself back to them again. It doesn't have to, you don't have to get lost in it. It is finding that support system, whether it's your family, your friends, people who respect you, and acknowledge that, yes, you're a changed person, but you are different. We all change. We all have things that alter us, but we're not gone. We're still here. We may not find the same things. Certain things may invoke the grief back again, or some sort of may make you feel, but we're still here. Yeah. And so to make sure that we're still welcomed into all the family celebrations, even though you don't feel like celebrating at that point, but to give you that space. And I think community comes a lot in that you're not feeling alone. That if nobody talks to you, that you have somebody to go back to at the end, even if you take time out for yourself. So, and even your staff, because if you're not up to par, your staff should know that Doc's having a low day today, and it should be reciprocal. If they're having a tough time, to be like, okay, take your time, like take a mental day, take the time to come back.
Wow. Well, and actually with that community piece, because like you said, it's so important to have good community. And I think a lot of us, we genuinely want to help others who are grieving and who are suffering. But sometimes we may say the wrong thing and we may not know the right words to say. And so are there some things we should avoid sharing with others who are going through grief? And, I think of the obvious one is, someone who just lost, a mother or a brother, and you go, oh, that must be really hard. I know what that's like. And the reality is I have no idea. So I think of some simple ones like that, but are there some other things that we might want to avoid doing, or how we can better comfort those around us who are grieving?
So, yeah, unless you've gone through it, say it. Yeah. But some of the things are like, if the person has lost a loved one, don't cut that person out of their lives forever. I don't know how to, I'll rephrase that. It's like, okay, like for example, Manu's not there, right? So we still celebrate his birthday, and we still cut a cake and we wish. It's still celebrating those life milestones and talking about that person, because we still want to share the stories. We still want to, I think that people die twice. Once when you're physically dead, and once people forget about you. So when you acknowledge the person that has been lost, it's acknowledging like if my husband talks about Manu to me, I feel validated. Yeah, my brother still existed, and we are talking, we're sharing story, and I'm carrying that to my children. Like, yeah, your uncle did this, and your uncle did that. He loved Legos, and so it's still remembering those good times, that you had those good times, and acknowledging them, that it's not all bad. So talking about your loved one who has passed away helps. Not saying that, oh, God intended. God doesn't intend to do bad things. God didn't intend to my brother to have cancer. I don't know what did, but that statement, it was God's way. I think that's very hurtful to me, at least. And instead saying, sorry, it had to happen this way, but hope you find comfort. I'm here to talk. I'm here to listen, giving that space to be able to express their emotions and not say like, oh, how long is this going to take? Or it's been a year. It's been 3 years. It could be 10 years. But the loss will always feel like it happened yesterday because you've lost a valuable person that's irreplaceable in your life. And whether it's losing a parent, which we expect because that's the nature law, but other people who have lost their children, people who have lost a partner, their support system, anything. It's acknowledging that, yes, it happened. Well, yes, I'm here for you. I'm always here to listen and just to be there to help with other little things of life, like do your groceries, somebody to do their groceries, somebody to do their laundry, some taking out the menial tasks so they can focus on healing.
Wow. I love what you just said, Perel. I think that that's so powerful is this idea of right, not talking about the person, right? That actually does more harm if you kind of push this person out of your memory instead of honoring their memory and
Exactly.
giving people permission to reshare those stories, to relive that, and really keep that person's memory alive and honoring them. Because I think so often, right, one of the things we think is, oh, I don't want to bring up Perel's brother anymore. Right? I
Yes.
don't want to talk about that. But in reality, it's like actually talking about that and sharing those good memories helps heal and helps deal with the grief. So what a powerful, powerful idea. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's just amazing.
Yes. Yes. And you're right. It is acknowledging that, don't be like, oh, we shouldn't talk about it and hide it. Just telling them that, yes, I hear you, I see you, I feel you. People want to be seen. People want to be heard. And that's with grief. It's not, like, oh, we should shun this person because they're grieving. No, let's bring in, share the joy. Let's share the sorrow. And that comes with community.
I love that. And so, for those of our listeners who are listening today, who either maybe know someone who's grieving or them themselves feel overwhelmed by the emotional challenges of either caregiving for a parent or a brother or a sibling or someone they love, like what's one piece of advice or an action step that you'd give them to help encourage them to take right now? Well, what's one step they can take to really start healing themselves so that they can care about themselves and continue giving back to others?
To take time out for yourself, to really take care of yourself. Nobody else will. If you don't make yourself priority and make known that I'm hurting, nobody else is going to do that for you. They're going to be like, yeah, this person's fine. This person is strong, So that's one thing, is first putting yourself, and it's not selfish to do that. It is totally fine. And if you don't find that support within your immediate family, find your support group. Seek out those people that will help you work through it. This journey doesn't have to be traveled alone, and so taking the time to really find that thing that grounds you internally, wherever you find your peace, whether it's going out for a jog. Some people get the runner's high and that's what they like, and that clears their mind. Being out in nature, doing gardening. For me, it was meditation, grounding myself, feeling the universal energy around me and listening to my internal feelings. So it's finding that thing that brings you peace internally and not lose yourself.
Wow, I love that. So powerful. Well, what's the best way for us to get a hold of you if we've got questions about this, or we really want to work on healing ourselves? How can we do that along with you and in community?
Well, I'm on Instagram at Do a Good Job, and that's on my website. You can email me. I'm pretty much an open book, and I'm happy to help anybody. I do have a source that you guys can use as an ebook you can download to help you with the process and give you some pointers. And just finding your why that keeps you going. There are a lot of people that rely on you and count on you. So don't let a negative life event make you lose you.
Wow. Well, hey, thank you for sharing your story with us. Thank you for encouraging me and just these great reminders that we have to take care of ourselves, right? I've got to take care of me so I can continue to take care of the others around us. And I think that's so important, especially with healers out there. So thank you for your message of encouragement for everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again, Tim. This was great.
Absolutely. So such a great conversation. Any closing thoughts before we sign off here, Parul?
Yes. Remember that the human mind, body, and soul have a remarkable capacity to heal. We are stronger. So even if you have dark days, you're going to come through.
Wow. Excellent. Well, hey, I know I certainly understand why it makes sense to slow down in the middle of the rat race. I certainly have some tools to stay grounded and connected. And I certainly feel more hopeful and inspired to continue to do the work that I'm doing. So thank you once again for the impact that you're having. And thank you for helping us build true wealth.
Thank you. Thanks, Tim.
All right. We'll see you all again here soon on the Dental Wealth Nation show.
You've been listening to Dental Wealth Nation. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. Join us next time as we pull back the curtain to reveal the often hidden advice and strategies used by today's most successful individuals and families, and help maximize your net worth so you can take even better care of the people you love. Till next time, make sure to hit the website at dentalwealthnation.com.